reef is the perfect solution and meets the Sheikh's low-lying design plans. The engineers continue testing, but the design is given the go-ahead. March 2004, half a year after the project was publicly announced, the first stage, the reclamation of the land, finally begins. Quarries are blasted daily. These limestone rocks that will create the 25-kilometre artificial reef must be the correct size, strength and density to withstand the force of the sea. The engineers are going to need 32 million tons, enough rock to build 5 pyramids. Project manager Nasser Bustami has never worked on a job like it.
This was the biggest job we've ever come across before. It was really a very, very challenging job for us.
800 truckloads a day will travel to the coast, delivering rocks to be taken out to sea. But before work gets fully underway, trouble strikes. The developers want to source their boulders close to the construction site to keep the budget low. Some of the nearby quarries realize that they have the stranglehold on the local limestone supply and raise their prices. General Manager Hamza Mustafa watched his chairman play hardball.
He started speaking to quarries, not in the United Arab Emirates, in other countries around the world, and decided to buy rock from them.
Immediately, the Arab quarries drop their prices. The world developers resume sourcing their rock close to the site. The crisis is averted. But now, the quarries are in trouble. There's so much building going on in Dubai that equipment is in short supply. As companies battle for parts, the price of mining machinery rockets. The cost of a single tire for the trucks spirals from $20,000 to $50,000. And the quarries can't source equipment quickly enough.
We were terrified, actually. We didn't have the trucks, we didn't have the excavators, we didn't have the staff.
The whole project slows to half speed. Everyone is waiting for the rocks. 2 engineers are put to the task of searching for wheels and engine parts.
We had our engineers flying to China, flying to the UK, flying everywhere, hunting down spare parts.
These parts are vital to service the vast fleet of lorries that will deliver the 485,000 truckloads of rock needed to create this megastructure. The engineers work 24/7 searching the globe for the right equipment. But it will take 6 months to source all the machinery needed to get the quarries back up to full speed. Out at sea, the construction company has an even more complicated task, building the islands. The world is the largest reclamation project ever awarded to one company. 7 dredgers, 17 boats, 9 cranes, 320 million cubic meters of sand and 32 million tons of rock are needed to create it. Barges take to the sea full of 4-ton boulders that must be dropped into position on the sea floor. Dredgers travel 13 kilometers out to sea. These vast boats suck up sand from the seabed. In a 6-hour round trip, they can move enough to fill almost 10 Olympic swimming pools. Back at the construction site, these dredgers rainbow blast in the sand to create the islands. From the start, the pressure is on. Winter is due in a few months' time. The construction team knows that the winter Shamal storms that strike from the northwest will be their greatest enemy. The build must begin at the top left corner of the world. The engineers need this part of the breakwater to protect Alaska, Canada and the west coast of America before the storms hit. There's a lot to do in just 6 months, but the vessels are pushed to the limit. From the start, Jos Martens, captain of the dredger, is fighting to keep to the deadline.
The hardest thing on this job is finishing in time with keeping the vessel operational as long as possible.
The huge arms that churn up the sea floor are being ground down and constantly need repairing. The Sheikh has set a tight deadline. In 5 years, a 25-kilometre breakwater and 300 sand islands must be created. And all the time, the waves are constantly battering the project. Can the construction team keep to the deadline and protect this megastructure from the full wrath of the sea? Ideally, they would build the breakwater first to protect the islands from wave erosion. But this will take too long, and the construction team won't make the deadline. There is only one solution.
We had to start with the reclamation and simultaneously with the breakwater.
The breakwater and the islands will grow together for maximum protection. Thousands of tons of sand will be poured into this construction site to create the 300 islands. But the engineers soon run headlong into a natural obstacle. With so much reclamation going on for the Palm Islands, Dubai is running out of local dredgeable sand, and the world build has barely started. Although Dubai is surrounded by desert, what the engineers need is marine sand. Coarse sand that packs tightly together and won't pollute the local environment.
This is the sand we need. Marine soil. Sand that's been treated. Sand that's been in the seabed. Sand that it's used to the seawater. We can't use desert sand.
Dubai's vast amount of reclamation has already exhausted all the sand within a few kilometers of its shores. Engineers must not dredge more than a few meters of the seabed, or the sea floor can't regenerate itself. Everyone studies the charts for new sites. The search for sand sends dredgers further out into the Gulf, closer to Dubai's boundary with international waters and their off-limits seabeds.
Every time the dredgers go farther, that means they're going to spend more diesel. That means there's going to be more money. And somebody's going to be upset.
It also means these vessels now become home for the teams of men working on board. For 6 weeks, these 45 men won't set foot on dry land. It's the only way to meet the 5-year deadline. Everyone feels the pressure.
If you don't perform, then they will stop the contract.
To keep on track, 450-ton dredging arms are lowered to the sea floor. Cutter claws churn up the seabed, sucking the sand into its enormous tanks. The dredgers take 8 hours to haul this cargo back to the construction site and rainbow it into position. And this is the last of Dubai's sand. Once it's gone, Dubai will be forced to stop their dredging projects. 1 month into construction, and the world is beginning to take shape. Millions of tons of sand are poured into this vast construction site, and many islands lie just under the water. April 2004, the first island breaks the surface. It's the moment everyone has been waiting for.
The first island that came up was Dubai. That was the happiest moment of my life. It's like a mother just gave birth.
In the following months, more islands rise above the waves. Northwest America, Asia, and the Middle East begin to appear. The exclusive dream is finally becoming a reality. For the first time, multi-million-dollar property developers like Andrew Brett can see their own islands.
We look out the window of the plane every time we fly over now and point out and make sure everyone sitting near us can hear as well that we have an island down there.
It's from the air that this man-made wonder comes to life. Each island has to be exactly the right shape to create a perfect map of the globe. It requires total precision. The only way to get it, GPS and satellite images.
Without DGPS, we are not capable of building the world at the correct position and the correct shape.
High-tech receivers are strapped to the backs of engineers who walk the perimeters of the islands. They are measuring the height and shape of each one, a tough job in searing 40-degree heat. This signal is then relayed back to the dredger, who can rainbow in more sand to the exact location needed. The construction engineers rely on this advanced technology for every step of the project. It's the only way to keep the build running quickly and smoothly.
The most exciting moment of this project is actually when you see the islands coming out. Every time I see an island coming out of the water, it's just a phenomenal feeling. And that's happening every day because these islands, we're getting the islands very quickly up out of the water.
The project seems to be running well. The supply of sand and rock is secure. After nearly 1 year, 13 kilometers of the 25-kilometer breakwater is complete. The reclamation deadline of 5 years seems within reach. And then there's bad news. The designers have discovered new wave data that suggests the breakwater is not up to the job. The artificial reef won't stop the waves from destroying this structure after all.
That was a very bad day. That was a very bad day. Our consultants got it hard. The breakwater engineers, the breakwater designers got it really hard.
With the project costing $14 billion, the engineers can't afford to make mistakes. The designs are going to have to be revised. The simplest solution is to increase the height of the breakwater. But the Sheikh has said it must not obstruct the view out to sea. The designers revisit their calculations and work out that if they raise the seawall by just 1 meter, it should be enough to stop the waves without blocking the view. It's an expensive error that costs valuable time and money. May 2005. 15 million tons of limestone has been dropped into the Gulf. It's a painstaking job. Each rock is individually placed. Like the shaping of the islands, the perfect line of the breakwater also relies on top-of-the-range computers and digital GPS. Satellite imagery allows the crane drivers to see exactly where they are and where the rocks need to go. Crane operators like Peter Atkins can place the huge boulders to within an accuracy of just 1 centimetre.
The computer system's just unbelievable, it's amazing. It doesn't fail, it never lets us down. The barges keep coming, one is empty, another one comes in, it never stops. Never stops. It's endless.
The job is endless because it has to be. There are still millions of tons of rock to place. But as the world continues to take shape, the engineers face their worst nightmare. The world is in danger of stagnating. The azure seas of this piece of paradise could turn into a swamp. The water is not flowing around the islands properly. The ecology of the area could be in serious jeopardy. Can the engineers find a way to save the world? 1 year in, and the construction of the world islands are fully underway. The engineers battle on. They have just 4 short years to go, or they will lose the contract. But now they face a serious problem that threatens the project to its core. The world is in danger of becoming a stinking swamp. The water is not flowing around the islands as it should. The azure blue seas could turn fetid and green.
The critical thing for this project is that you're going to have crystal clear blue waters for people to swim on. Anything that we did that went against that was a problem for us.
The investors' design plans focus on beachfront properties, a water world where man and nature live in harmony. But suddenly, the dream seems like it could slip away. Seawater tests are taken to monitor the situation. From the start, the engineers have been aware of the risks of slow-moving water and stagnation. The Palm Islands faced a similar challenge. The solution for the Palm was to make 2 gaps in the breakwater that let water in to flush the system. The world breakwater already has gaps. It's built in 5 parts, so the water should flow freely. But when the engineers run the computer simulations, the world still shows signs of slow water flow. The red area does not clear quickly enough. Instead of 4 days for the tide to flush the system, it's taking 8. The problem is the narrow channels around the islands. With so many islands bunched together, the waterways in the center of the world get little water flow.